the meeting to order. Item 1 on the agenda for this evening are public comments.
Do we have a quorum?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
We do, yes.
And I don't believe there are any members of the public.
Lisa just joined.
Yeah.
And I'm letting in Nicole. Yeah.
Okay.
Nicole's turn.
And Lisa, you said?
Lisa Petrak is here.
She's a teacher.
Teacher. So we're in public comments for those who are just joining.
And if anyone wants to, if anyone's on the screen and wants to make a public comment, you can just raise the hand. Oh, Jonathan?
Not sure if you wanted me to make my announcement in public comment or
Go for it, Jonathan. Go for it.
that would actually probably be for the best because I'm currently
Oh.
He just muted himself again.
I am sorry I hit spacebar. So that's you start okay. So I'm not going to start my video. So it's probably best that I do it right now because my 9-month-old is basically being my 9-month-old. So I'm actually here to announce that we are actually doing a second annual Juneteenth festival right outside your current location. It is going to be at the what is formerly known as the Tuttle Lot or 113 Depot Street, aka the field that's right outside of SVSU central office. This will be the second year that we've done our Juneteenth festival. As many of you are well aware, Juneteenth is our nation's newest federal holiday. It is a day used to commemorate and celebrate the anniversary of the last enslaved person in the United States being formally freed from chattel slavery. What we're going to have planned for the Juneteenth festival is we'll have music, we'll have free food, we'll have a bunch of our organizational partners and community partners with us at the time, and hoping that we'll also have interesting community and community artist collaboration occurring as well. We'll also have hair braiding and a number of other things to go with that. I always would like to say the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I would love people to briefly promote this as much as they can. Last year we had around 100 to 120 people show up. This year my objective is to try and to have at least double that number, meaning I put it into play where it's going to be around 200 to 240 people. The entirety of this effort is grant funded. It is not costing us a thing, although it is costing me a lot of gray hairs, but it is entirely free of charge. And for the public and community, like I said, free food, and it's a great activity to do during the summertime. Hopefully we have better weather than we did last year. And it's all family friendly. If you have any questions, suggestions, comments, please feel free to contact me, but I look forward to seeing board members and community members there alike.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. Any other public comments? Raise your hand. No? All right, with that, we can move into item 2 on the agenda, finance. Within that is the treasurer's report, which is we need to accept. It was in the packet. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion there? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. Moving into the operations report, we have Holly Anderson here to update the board on a facilities energy efficiency training prize money that we got. It needed to be accepted by a certain date. And so with that, Renee and Holly got it to Nicole and I. And so we did actually accept it on behalf of the board, but we can still be updated on it, and being we haven't received the money yet, we can still have a board action on it because that is what was outlined here on the agenda. So Holly.
Excellent. So thank you, friends. I just wanted to fill you in on what this is. The Department of Energy put together this prize as an initiative in 25 school districts across the country to help train people on energy efficiency. And the intent of these funds is to help establish, train, and support energy managers to identify, plan, and implement energy and health upgrades in schools throughout the country. So we are one of 25 school districts that received $100,000. We're gonna start coordinating our trainings with the Department of Energy on June 7th. And then we'll have more details then.
So, being that it's written on the agenda, I take any coaching here, but being that it's written on the agenda as an action item, I believe that we can move forward with the full board.
I move that we accept the prize money.
I'll second
And
it.
thank you to Holly and you mentioned a particular person that wrote the grant.
Yep,
And
so
who I see is leaving our employ, unfortunately.
I know, I've already had my good cry,
Yeah,
gotten over that, but
so
No.
thank you to both of
Darren,
you for your work on that grant.
Absolutely.
I'll second that.
thank you. There's another, this in the second phase, there's another $50,000 prize that the facilities team will work to make sure we get.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. Moving on to item 4, policies. Are we able as a board to, or would the board like to move all 3 of these policies in one? Or would you like to do it as separate?
Because it's SVSU.
Consent agenda?
I think we need to do them separate because this is the final stage
Okay,
for all of them. And if somebody out there that we don't know about have a question.
okay, so within policies, we have item A, which is number 2200, non-discrimination policy, and we need to move to adopt.
So move.
I'll second it.
And is there any discussion?
There was no changes during that process for this particular policy, so it comes to SVSU as its final process in terms of being adopted and put on the website.
Excellent, thank you, Leon. Any further discussion?
There is one small word change that needs to be made to it. On page 2, section 5, section,
This is 2200.
that's 5787.
Okay, so.
Oh, that's threats. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong.
Yeah, we're still on
I'm
20.
looking at the wrong.
No worries, we're on 2200.
Sorry.
Any discussion on that?
No. No.
Nope. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Great, moving into item B, under 4, under the 4th, which is number 5087, threats and disruptions to school operations. We need to adopt that.
Move it down.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
As I was mistakenly explaining. And under section 5, which is sanctions, it's a single sentence paragraph and it has to commensurate in as a verb, and the to needs to be crossed off.
Just commensurate.
Yes, just commensurate. Commensurate is the verb.
That, about this.
Sure.
That would not affect the intent of the policy, so this is a correction that can be made.
Still at.
It actually clarifies the
First part.
sentence to do that.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, now moving into C, 5405, behavioral intervention. We have to adopt that one.
I'll move it, Bob.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
Leon, there was just a grammatical change in this particular policy before coming back here in terms of the name of Student Support Services Director. So that came from the elementary district. And so that wouldn't affect this policy. So it was going forward with that comment to be corrected. Great, what's in trouble?
I guess I'll just ask a quick question. I know there's some federal laws on this stuff right now, especially for physical restraints that are being acted on probably hopefully this year. If those go into effect with this change this policy, that's right.
We have the additional rules in there, I think 4,500.
Right.
That is cited for those particular things. If that changes, that would be part of that change, yes. And then we still, the administrators will be responsible for getting that.
To us, then we'll change it as we need to. Okay.
Right.
Good question. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And any abstentions? Great. Before we move on, Richard, I didn't do a nice job calling out the first and second motions. So on all of those policies, it was a first motion by Leon and a second by Ray. Item 5 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda.
Just so you know, under warrants, there's a, Renee, you're holding it, correct? You have the updated. So Renee's holding the updated warrant to include current payroll and she'll have the copy.
And that was not in the packet.
It didn't go out hard copy, but it is updated on the
Okay.
website. Yep, so it does have the current payroll, which was processed today. And I have the hard copy. Once everything is approved, I'll give it for signatures, and then I will also put it in DocuSign for those members who are remote, so they can sign as well.
Excellent. And unless there's any picking up opposition, I think we can move the minutes, the warrants, the leaves of absence, retirements, resignations, and nominations all as one. Is the board okay with that?
Sure.
And then could I get a second? That was a move by Ray
I'll second by Jeff.
and Jeff seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I didn't ask for discussion and I should have. My apologies. Were there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Moving into superintendent's report, which Superintendent Colkeen is not here tonight, but we have Assistant Superintendent Laura Boudreau. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I have 6 topics to touch upon. I thought I'd hit each one and then ask after each one if you have a question. So thanks for having me tonight. There are updates that were the request for this board. My first update is around the request that we're in the process of creating an SVSU snapshot that we can use to provide data points that are specific to the SVSU. Our Director of Communication, Katie West, has been tasked with this role, and she has worked closely with the SVSU directors to gather data points linked to enrollment, budget, buildings and operations, student services, professional learning, employment, technology, and secondary graduation pathways. Once all the information is organized, a decision will be made as to where and how the information will be displayed. Current ideas include a page on the website, possibly an SVSU Wikipedia page, and then also some considerations for printed materials. Any questions about the status of the snapshot?
No, thank you. Not for me anyway.
Okay, all right. My second update was just a quick request around, I think it was in relationship to where we can find enrollment data. In your packet, you do have current enrollment information. It's called the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union Student Enrollment per District, and this particular document is labeled May 2023. We use this data, we use the first two sets of data that's outlined on this document to monitor enrollment and attendance. The information is also used to monitor the Continuous Improvement Plan Goal 2, Safe and Healthy Schools, which has activities linked to attendance. As you're thinking, as you start to move into budget season, having enrollment data that compares 2 years is nice to have. And that is documented on that enrollment form, which is in your FYIs.
I'm going to have to mirror one score because the data for North Bennington is usually not quite correct. It continues to be so.
Yes, and actually, and so thank you, Ray, for bringing that up, because that was, I went back and checked today before tonight, and that is correct. So you'll see North Bennington on page 2. I know Ray works very closely with Jim Kosis. And so on page 2, there is information in a table labeled North Bennington served elsewhere. And then you'll see it again on the front page, and you're correct. It's,
Right, and its number is different from what's in the actual
yes.
chart. Okay.
I want to make sure we didn't, there's enough people on electronically. I want to make sure we didn't fly past any questions or comments on that first point.
Yeah, Renee is watching too, so we can see everybody.
Okay.
So yes, thank you for that. We're watching. Oh, Celeste has her hand up. Celeste.
I do have a question. So I don't see Sandgate
Okay.
kids on here. I see Sandgate kids enrolled in school, but no Sandgate kids elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you have North Bennington elsewhere.
Celeste, that is a great point, and I will take that back to the team that prepares this data point. So thank you for that, Celeste.
Okay, and I can help with that data too if you need it.
Awesome. That would be great. So I've made a note, and that's why we're having this conversation. That's helpful.
Right, this is the attendance.
Thank you.
data that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, no, this is, well, yes, attendance, it's for students in what schools?
Because we have all attendant Fisher,
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
but we don't have.
Sandgate.
Correct.
We don't have Sandgate up above.
Yeah, we just how many students are in Sandgate for those grade levels. It'd be hard to track where they are.
Yeah, and thank you to Celeste. So, and that's something to work on. So good. Any other questions about the
We know where they are. It's just that the database that generates that is just generated by attendance.
Yeah.
So those students that aren't attending one of our schools has to be manually updated, so.
But Sandgate is down at the bottom part of that.
For distribution, for this middle and high school
for secondary.
and elementary.
Correct. And I did, and just when you're looking at that third piece of data at the bottom, that's from town. This poll is called Town Code for State Reporting, and it will not line up with the student counts above. And I've actually taken some time to learn more about that, but that has to do with a poll that we have to do for the state. So again, it's an interesting conversation. So we primarily spend a lot of time with the table, the first data point at the top that looks at attendance and enrollment. But just know that you have it in the packet. So that was our second point. Any other questions about this one? Okay. The third request was for just an update around school choice under the umbrella of the SVSU. And it comes up in two places. The SVUESD has intra-school choice application that can be found on the SVSU website. A student must be registered to attend kindergarten or currently attend an SVUESD elementary school. The application has to be submitted by March 1st of the preceding academic year that the student wishes to attend, and families are notified if approved by the superintendent's office. So that's one one form under the SVU ESD. And then the second is Vermont School Choice application, which is focused at the high school level. The form can be requested at Mount Anthony Union High School or Arlington Memorial High School. The process follows state statute. The process is clearly laid out. The school board determines and announces capacity on or before February 1st, and applications are submitted by March 1st, and families are notified by April 1st. So under the umbrella of the SVSU, those are two areas where there's opportunities.
Are there any questions?
I mean, I know when we did the school choice for elementary, one big thing we talked about was making sure that the parents who had students in certain schools, they could bring them, it would be a perk for them, because if you're living North Bennington, and the parent teaches in Pownell, bringing that child to Pownell would be a benefit versus trying to, drop the kid off in another school and get you work on time. So, I mean, how is that working? I know that's one of the things.
That was going to be my question, is overall, and this may be a question at the elementary school board level,
Yes.
and I probably will ask it.
Yeah.
But overall, how is it working?
And I, just so I don't forget, Celeste has her hand up, so
Okay.
we'll call her next. So this year, we followed the timelines and we followed the procedure that was outlined by the SVU ESD board. So if you go to the website and you pull up that application, that the board outlined that process. And so that's what was followed. And then again, that's a great topic, I think, for that board to put back on the table. But that's
Yeah,
exactly
I'd
what
like to see
happened
the
this
dis-
year.
I'd like to know the distribution too, how many.
Yep, absolutely. Okay,
And you do have a distribution for choices made by North Bennington students. Although, as we noted, there's issues with accuracy sometimes.
so I've made some notes about that.
Thank you.
Celeste, you had your hand up? I think. Or could have been the last question. No, she just put it up unless she didn't mean to.
Is it my turn?
Yes, go ahead, Celeste.
So you mentioned school choice, the school choice you're talking about between the Arlington and MAU, that's high
Yes.
school choice,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
So Sandgate has school choice too,
yes.
Right.
I think.
which is different than a high school choice.
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
you are correct.
And that's at the high school level also.
It
is
all
choice.
Yes, it's all the way up. Yeah,
And they would need a block like it's for North Bennington to distribute their children who are
so thanks
where
for.
they are. Yeah.
Great, so I made those notes.
Yep.
Thanks for that. So there was a question for an update around Project Alliance. So as a reminder, on March 20th, more than 25 agencies, departments and organizations met at Bennington College Center for Advancement of Public Action with the intent of enhancing collaborative efforts for improving violence and harm reduction within the community. These efforts were deeply rooted in Governor Scott's 10-point public safety enhancement and violence prevention plan and built upon the vision model created in Rutland in 2013. The goals of the summit were to identify action items to build collaboration, coordination, improve data sharing, and most importantly, create connections to address gaps in public safety and health efforts within the region. We hosted a small group focus center here right in this room for the education focus group. And then Superintendent Colpeen, myself, our Director of Equity, Jonathan Phipps, our lead counselor, Melissa Cleary, our Director of Student Support Services, Kate Abbott, our lead clinician, Ali Rodriguez, and the middle school's prevention coordinator, Glauca Kushman, attended the actual summit. And the outcome is this plan that I'm holding. We were broken into smaller groups at the summit to create community action steps. And so there is a lead group, and then we're invited to monthly meetings to participate in conversations. Last week so there's only been 2 meetings since the summit. This past week, Superintendent Colkeen and our prevention coordinator from the middle school, Glauco Kuzman, attended that meeting. The focus of the conversation right now, because one of the areas of focus is housing. And the current focus is on the response to the hotel voucher program that's currently about to end. So there was a great need to immediately work together around that. There's also a focus on developing a community map to really highlight networks. So we're to make sure that we're working together and to check in to make sure that we're not doing the same thing in 2 separate locations. So that is also a focus as well. And so again, this project is just getting started, and we'll continue to update you as we move forward. Is there any questions about Project Alliance?
What's the name of it?
They're calling it Project Alliance, Bennington Public Safety Enhancement Efforts in Action.
If I may, this was part of, as you said, the March meeting. We were given a short update on it, and I looked back at past agendas and asked for if the conversations had been ongoing or what was happening with it as of late. So that's how.
Is that posted on the SVSU website, or will it be?
That is a great question. I think there will be things that we could post as we're participating. So, right, I'm writing that down. Okay, thank you. I will actually want to let me find out where the home of the foundation of the work that they have, which community organization, and I want to see if we can link to it.
Yeah.
So we can help you directly get to this information, okay? Any other questions about Project Alliance?
No, and unless there's any on the.
Do not see anyone. So the last 2 items I have for tonight are around linked to ESSER funding, and one was just an update around ESSER 3 or ARP ESSER with a focus on construction. As a reminder, this is linked to the American Rescue Plan Act. Holly Anderson, who was just here, our SVSU Director of Facilities, this past month, visited the SVU ESD board meeting, the MAU board meeting, and the Arlington board meeting to provide the specific updates to the items that are linked to construction. She partners very closely with the Director of Finance, Renee Gordon, to monitor the work, and the pillar that this work is linked to is safe and healthy operations. The Agency of Education offers, they're almost weekly right now, touch points for help and support as we move forward, but we just wanted to let you know that had happened. And then the other piece of ESSER, which was a request, is how are we planning for funding next steps when this money expires completely on September 30th of 2024. Last year, which was our big first year of kicking off our plan, we spent a lot of time last year building infrastructure around the new positions and programming that we had put our funding behind, that was outlined and linked to our recovery plan, which you can always find on the SVSU website. There's a tab right on the homepage and a feedback button. So what we're doing this year is we're going around and collecting data from specifically staff members that are part of ESSER, because we want to be able to report back to you. So that's what we're doing now, but I do have some snippets that I'd like to share with you from a couple of the staff members that have already submitted some data for this year. As a reminder, we have 5 family engagement specialists that we have funded out of ESSER. They currently help to support approximately 85 homeless and unaccompanied families and youth in the SVSU, along with learners that are experiencing difficulty with attendance. One reports that they have 73 students and families currently on their caseload that they're touching base with around homelessness, attendance, and making connections to community organizations to support success in school. We have 2 board certified behavior analysts or BCBA positions, and their work this past year has been focused on supporting administrators, teachers, and staff with learners to make sure that we're helping them with safety and creating safe learning environments for themselves and others. And so the BCBAs have really helped to develop plans that schools can follow to support students in need. A really neat role, and I just met with them on Thursday. We have a pilot that was a suggestion of recovery for a pre-K social coach that supports the transition from pre-K to elementary. And their house, the pilot's at Molly Stark. And so the first thing I'm going to pass around when I talk, and I will also hold up to the team, this is called a student toolbox. Every kindergartner at Molly Stark has a toolbox. And so my example would be they're doing a list of weekly lessons right now linked to some stories around Elephant and Piggy Friendship Fridays. And lessons are linked to Today I Will Fly, which is all around showing respect, and I Am Going, which is all around responsibility. And every time they have a lesson, they add a new tool to their toolbox. And one of my favorites, before I pass it around, that we're working on is taking deep breaths. We all need to take deep breaths. So this says, and every child has one in their toolbox. So there's other items in here, right? We're gonna pass this around so you can look at it. So a child
Is this the complete toolbox?
no, because they keep adding to the toolbox, but this is what they have in them so far.
That's what they have now.
Currently, they have a journal with crayons. They have a little thing of Play-Doh, which is one of my personal favorites. They have, oh my gosh, a puppet, right? Can I show them? So a puppet, you all have puppets? These are like my new favorite thing.
In our house.
I know. So the puppet, this is one of my, this would be one I would be pulling out all the time, but again, very tactile. Okay.
No, I'm just gonna zoom in so people at home.
Oh,
can
yes,
actually
hold up.
see.
Okay, yes. We'll hold up this and the pinwheel and a puppet. Yeah, and you can take them out and try them. So it's just very comforting. and soothing.
No.
Okay. A calm down jar and a game about feeling and friendships, which I can see in here. It has different feeling words on it. So again, this is a pilot and something we're trying. And so they're partnering with the classes. So I'll let you pass that around. Another role, and part of we really do want to focus on the transition from early ed to kindergarten. And so we also contract. So part of ESSER is contracting with our community partners. So we use ESSER money to contract with Myers-Prouty to really help with transitions, to be an extra set of hands. They might know the child from a prior early ed experience. And so that's part of that pre-K piece. We have one art therapist that we have been able to fund through ESSER money. And she has built a program that we never knew we needed. And she currently is working with 5 schools that have requested her support. This year, she has held 525 sessions through May 12th. That's a 27% increase in the number of sessions over last year. Of the students she's supporting, she's seen an 88% increase in this group of students' days present in school since the start of school until now, compared to last year with a 67% increase.
So she works with individual students or
Correct.
small groups?
This year has been more small groups. Last year, she tried partnering with art teachers to do some larger projects. She actually, in our newsletter this past month, had a piece that she did with some students and groups that was at the Art Center in Manchester that was on display.
And you attribute this increase in attendance rate solely to this intervention?
I would say that I'm gonna say I think this is great data to show. Hopefully this is something that's working at supporting these kids, because I do believe that the arts is something that's.
You put it as a overall attendance increase, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. And again, this is data that these are new areas for us to support as a district. So Eileen Druckenmiller, who is our art therapist, has come up with a way to display some of this data. And so, these questions are great questions for us to continue to take back. And then
Nicole has her.
Oh, Nicole, go ahead.
You made a comment about this is a program we didn't know we needed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said?
It was a program. Yeah, it was a program. Like I didn't even know that art therapy existed. And it was brought as a resource, and it was a request out of our recovery planning 2 years ago, as something that, as a district we could really use. And so, from a district perspective, we prior to this did not have a formalized art therapy program. Eileen had done some individual work in our district with some students and has really developed this program over the last 2 years.
And then you referenced some statistics there that Ray was asking about. With the amount of funding, the ESSER funding, and the intended impact for COVID recovery, I mean, this is really to help address student needs. Where is there data that helps track programs supported through ESSER funds and impact?
That's exactly, so Nicole,
Is that the snapshot?
That's in this moment, this year. So last year was all around building program and infrastructure. And right now in this moment, that's what we're trying to do, is collect these data points. And I'm just giving, so this is actually what you're asking for is actually our work right now in this moment at the end of this year. So I'm just giving you some snippets of what we've already collected or are working on collecting and compiling. Yes.
Okay. And was attendance identified as a target metric, or was that and like, oh, hey, look, our attendance has gone up? Was that intentional or?
Yes, for this, but for the role of the art therapist, which is attached to engagement.
Okay.
Because there are different pillars in recovery, and so different people are working on different
aspects.
Many of them are working on attendance.
Yeah.
So along with the family engagement specialists who we're hoping and again, one of our big meetings to collect data from many of our ESSER staff is tomorrow. So these are just these are just a little bit of a taste of what we're heading into. And it's so everyone's doing something different, because the last one I was going to give you a little snippet was the health and wellness coach, who's been supporting our staff primarily and providing individual health coaching to groups of staff, and yoga and hiking, and really trying to survey staff. She was trained and offered Rise to Resilience, a 6-week training to help manage stress, increase mindfulness, personal resilience, and personal empowerment. And we're currently looking at the number of people that have participated and their outcomes. And so just to give you a little taste, and that's a whole other vein. Hopefully that's encouraging people to feel good about coming to work, which is a whole other. So all of these different everything is a little bit, when we're talking about metrics, every one of these roles was serving a different purpose. And so drilling down, and our goal is to be able to give you good feedback around the impact that it's having. So when we start to head into the next budget cycle, we can make some good decisions. And at the same time, we're also looking at other grant sources. There is a federal McKinney-Vento grant that does support homelessness. We've been talking about how can some of the roles that I just described to you are preventative. Can we use Medicaid reimbursement money to support some of these roles? Could we be more creative with our title money? Because even within title, there's different titles and different purposes of that money. And then also we're going to have to look at local funding if there are things that we see have data to show that they're working. So but it's very different depending on what we're looking at.
I think you probably answered my question, the question I was gonna be asking. It's a lot of different things that are happening in the different districts at that level, like the two box right there. Everybody is not gonna be exposed to just that. Somebody else is getting something else. And the data you're gonna bring back is that, and the reason I think was asked about 10 is the benefits out of it so that we'll be able to say that's a program
Correct.
that we'll want to
Correct.
adopt. And I think you said something about if we do, that means that we may have to put funding out for that
Correct.
particular thing. So,
That is correct.
okay, thanks.
So we want to make sure we're giving you good information.
Nicole, answer.
Nicole,
I'm sorry, I'm not there in person.
that's okay.
I don't have a car.
That's okay.
So a lot of these, as you're describing them, these sound like really potentially interesting, innovative. And again, it's a large amount of money that's been brought into the district. It sounds like there might be some story opportunities, like to work with the Bennington Banner to get some of these really unique stories out there about how some of this funding is having an impact. I know that Susan was working with Katie to try to create more school messaging in the banner, but
Yes.
if these really are, as they sound,
Yes.
kind of unique, innovative, impactful programs, then let's tell the story.
Yes. Thank you, Nicole. I agree. Thank you.
And the truancy effort is listed, highlighted in your needs assessment and data.
It was engaged, the conversation, yeah, was around engagement is huge.
Yeah.
And finding out if children are engaged, they're gonna come to school.
And
And-
you see it actually in the numbers, the attendance numbers
Correct.
that are on the FYI.
So that was part of what they talked about this period of time is we really need to rethink and relook at our system and having the ability to do some really creative, to build in some really creative ideas and strategies and to try some things out has been great. And now we really do need to look at the data to decide what's working.
I
Yes.
would think in addition to art, I'm not sure if that's mostly visual art. Music would be another element.
We are not talking about title tonight, but I will say Title IV is just this really interesting pocket of money. And so the music teachers right now in this moment are re-engaging because COVID in music was a really tough experience for
Really?
kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Looking at Renee down there, just on her head. And so our music teachers right now have an investment and it's all around trying to create these experiences for kids and making sure they have the right instruments so that they can create music. And then the drumming piece that was in Title IV, those were all, you're right, because something different is gonna ignite a child and we have to make sure that we have those opportunities.
And drumming is a very good base level to start.
I even got to try it, Riley.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was good
It
stuff.
was good.
It was good stuff.
Yeah.
Other questions for me? I hit all my 6 items.
So when we get these reports, we're always looking at identifying the needs. So we take attendance, we're going to have a snapshot of what attendance were and how this program's impacted the attendance. Okay.
Yeah.
tied back to each of the pillars.
Ties back to you.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just like when you, and I think it 3 years feels like a long time. 3 years is not a long time. So and this is not easy money to use. This is not easy money to use. And
In terms of the requirements. but-
correct, and so we have amazing ideas and amazing people, and so it takes time to implement because there are things we have to do to access the money, put it in place, actually try it, implement it, and then measure, how it's doing. And they were excited, like, this is from the pre-K. They were so excited. I was bringing the toolkit that they now do direct instruction with kindergartners. I have a nice, lovely written note with all the details, because they're so excited, and to turn it into data that we can share with you is something that's what we're working on right now. Last year it was building infrastructure. Now we're working on collecting data so we can report out accurately. It's a work in progress.
Is there any whispers or conversations that some of these, that it's not just going to end full stop?
So I'm glad that you said that, because there's like a little snippet that I don't think I'm gonna return to is last we talk to our community stakeholders whenever we get a chance. And we also had a chance to meet, so Jim and I met with one of our senators as well, because they have talked, we're not the only district saying this September 30th, 2024 is coming, and you can't just, doesn't work like that, can't just stop. And because recovery happens for different kids at different time periods, and we want to be, so anytime you can talk up and talk, we encourage you to do that, and we have done that. We had our community partners in here last week. It was actually the idea of our family engagement specialist to bring in all the community partners that we've worked with this year to support our kids, and that wasn't the intent, but that's where the conversation went, because a lot of them were talking about like, oh, it's great, it's been great to have a family engagement specialist that can help set up this doctor's appointment, that so it's like this bridge we have now.
To say the impact of COVID on a kid who came out of COVID in kindergarten and is now a fourth grader, or gonna go into fourth grade, and then everything's all fine.
Correct.
It's not.
It's
Correct.
not, yeah, right.
Correct. I think everybody's, every developmental level has had, including adults, has had some kind of impact. And we need to be aware of that. We need to be watching for it. And again, it just doesn't end on September 30th, 2024. And so we just need to keep talking.
Yep.
It is a federal thing, so during our sessions with the AOE, every week, they do give us updates if they have anything, and the last one that I was on said there has not been any indication that the feds are willing to let it go beyond, but I think they're gonna continue to get pressure from the states.
And if you follow the feds right now, they're proposing massive cuts, like
Oh, yeah,
10% across the board for
Yeah.
IDA funding and all these things. And it's not just for 1 year, it's 20% each year for 10 years. So, these are proposals at the federal level. So we could be looking at, $100,000 of federal money happening to us each year. So.
Well, any other questions?
Renee, thank you for that update.
I have one,
Laura, both of you,
Sorry.
thank you.
Both of you.
I didn't realize that you were continuing.
Go ahead, Ray.
You mentioned in the minutes, there was a reference last month to a March 9th meeting.
Community
And
meeting, that we have.
is that our results from that meeting? Because that was a feedback meeting, basically.
That is
Are they
correct.
recorded? Well, I see a feedback form on here, but that's a form. That's not an actual
Right.
report. So
Yep, so we actually had, the way the community data night was set up, we used it as, community engagement for all of our funding sources, including, we're required to do it annual data inventory to get feedback from our community just in general about our educational system linked to our continuous improvement plan goals. And then we had one grant at every table where we had a human being at each table there to say, this is what this grant is. We had some resources or human beings there that come from that grant. And we shared, do you have any ideas? Do you want to have a conversation with us? And we took notes and we gave that back to each grant piece. And then we also shared at that meeting that another way to get in touch with us is there's a feedback button on the website.
Yep.
There's a feedback button for title on the website. And so those different ways. But what I hear you saying too is you'd like to see the notes from the community
Well,
engagement night.
I'd like to see what they had to say.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Oh, Nicole has her hand up.
Go ahead, Nicole.
She should be.
Okay, it said it wouldn't allow me to unmute. I attended the meeting, and it was really informative. I mean, I don't know a lot about all the different grant sources and the programs that they support. I found it to be really informative. Laura, you said it hadn't been done before. Was that the first?
This was our first attempt at trying to find, we're always trying to find ways to engage our community and find ways to have people have conversations with us. So yes, this was our first annual.
I don't know who the other attendees were, but it was, I found it to be very informative. I had some really meaningful conversations with people that I learned a lot.
So it's only annual? Is it not more periodic?
So we will do that. We will do that annually, and we can always find other, we can find other ways to have conversations. So I appreciate, you asking what are some other opportunities we could create to have conversations. So thank you for that.
Okay, before we move on to the chair's report, is there anybody else out in the electronic world looking to? No? Okay. So moving into the chair's report first, I would like to say thank you to Laura for that you delivered for us this evening. I threw a lot at Jim earlier this week. I had copied Nicole. We went back and forth on a few items for Jim to address in the chair's report. And, he indicated that maybe you wouldn't be able to get to all of it, but because he wasn't going to be able to be here tonight, but you certainly did, and really appreciate that, and looking forward to the things that are to come also. Second thing I had on my list is next time we meet, it will be after the school year, and I want to make sure that I as the chair of the board, but then also on hopefully on behalf of the board, express a really great deep thanks to the staff of the SU all across the entire supervisory union for the great work this school year. Many challenges, many wins, many opportunities for us to be thankful to the work that they did. And so just want to make sure that that's out there as a public message. And the last thing that I had is there are two committees that this board is charged with. One would be a budget committee that I believe starts to form end of September.
I'll be meeting with administrators September, October, and then we'll probably start meeting in November.
November, okay. So there'll be a budget committee that will be needed, and then there's also which we don't, if there's anybody who would be interested to be a part of that budget committee, there's no number requirement from this board, but if there's anybody who would have an interest in that, please just let me know and I will add you to the list, and we will have it on the agenda for the June meeting for us to formally put them in place. And then the second one is the Superintendent Evaluation Committee. I did get some clarity as to that one. Generally what we look for is one member from each board to be a part of the Superintendent Evaluation Committee. And so if there's any interest out there from folks to take part in that process this year, please let me know also. And we will again take action on that next meeting. Go ahead, Leon.
Well, you mentioned two committees that this SVSU is charged with, and it's this one that keeps floating around to everybody, and that's the policy committee. We at long time ago, when all the boards had an individual policy for themselves, we decided that we would collectively come together and form all of the policies under one and under SVSU, and that's why they all come back here for the final adoption.
Mhm.
But we seem to be having some problem with trying to see how we gonna manage that committee. We're not sending people from this board to the committee, but it is this committee
Yeah, right.
policy. I mean, this policy committee for SVSU is this SVSU, but we're taking members from the different boards directly to be part of that. And so it's
If a board, if individual boards all pass a policy, does it need to come to this one to have the same members who voted on it on other boards vote on it again?
But
that's
it's
the final step.
drafted by the SU policy committee.
Right.
So Leon's committee that he chairs is the entity that begins the revision process. And once that committee has worked through the revisions with the attorney, then it goes out to the member district boards and the SU board. So it is, and I say Leon's committee because he's really been at the helm of this for a while. But it is an SU board committee.
Right, and so that's why I'm trying to make sure that, we hadn't had a chance to do anything, along that line. And I'm just one of the last members that were here that formed to put all that together. And so now we're trying to get new members in so that we can start that back up for the drafting process. And,
So it's an SU board committee for oversight, but it's not an SU, we don't need to form the committee.
The
No,
members,
right.
the members come from the
Come from the
individual
other
boards.
that's right, the members come from that.
They don't have to be on this board.
Whereas the other two that I
They
outlined
have to
here,
be on
they
this.
have to be on this.
this.
Oh, that distinction I wasn't aware of.
So do you think we need somebody on the policy committee from this board?
Well,
Is that the big question?
normally what happened in the past, yes, what we did was between Dick and myself, we would give one of us took the chair or the vice chair, making sure that somebody from here, because everything came back from here to do that. That's what's happened. So Dick left and we've had lots of members to drop off and change. And so I'm trying to make sure structurally wise, we need to talk about how we're gonna manage that again. It would seem, still that that somebody on this committee need to be able to know and understand everything. But we're not appointed, so we assume that, well, because I'm on here and on SVSU, then we got it covered by that way. We have other members, so if any one of those other members from the other board want to become the chair, vice chair, just like Nicole was vice chair on that committee, and she's on this committee, it serves the purpose that when things get handled or managed and come back to here, we'll be able to speak to those. But if we didn't have that, which could happen, you could have somebody that's not part of SVSU, but then on the policy committee being assigned, how do we manage them because they won't be coming here, and all our administrative help come from SVSU.
Well, I spent some time on the policy committee and I can assure you that I learned words are not my strong suit.
fund either, so, you know, but we have other people that we're trying to make sure that do that, you know. We all contribute for that, and so we need to
How long
have,
are your meetings, Leon?
well, we never like to meet longer than an hour, but it's
And they're not every month.
so we skip months, yeah.
I could be the rep from here, I suppose. I definitely can do more part of this.
And so that's who would say, okay, when things come back to here,
And I used to be on the committee too.
Yeah.
As you know.
so if they came back here, he would be able to say what took place all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's what we
I
want to
can't
do.
believe I'm signing up for this.
I wrote it right down, right here.
You're in, right? You're in.
Ray, I'm just saying, I'm just having to be lucky to be back on here.
Thank you for,
So we hadn't met to try to form that because we hadn't got all the members back.
Yeah.
That,
But I'm I guess I'm the SU rep. too.
Leon, are you still on the
Policy.
policy committee right now?
as far as I know, but we
Yeah.
just hadn't met. And so we meet and we'll talk about who wants to be the chair and the vice chair and so forth along that line. And so we hadn't had a chance because of all the,
We know you want to be the chair. Leon.
well. Not necessarily, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you for-
We need to-
thank you for pointing that out. Important distinction.
So
and
has
that-
each board designated a member of the policy committee? That has happened?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yep.
Great, okay.
So the question is, as long as the board has a member of the committee that's also an SVSU, that should cover. So for you being on that committee, the representation for MAU and SVSU then?
Well, that's what we.
That's what he's just saying,
doing,
yeah.
But I'm saying that wasn't the
But
way
if he
it's
wasn't
supposed to
on
work
It
out.
wasn't. So-
Yes.
So Ray is ready to volunteer for
Right.
SVSU.
And
this
that's,
year. Next year's another story.
that's what Ray is saying.
Yeah,
it's good.
And so that would be,
That's a talking point come March.
and the other part of that was coming up, we used to, I mean, it's administrative representation, which we had high school and we had an elementary principal, but now
We share.
we share. And
Take
so
turns.
the question is, how do you go and manage them? It's very important
Yeah.
that you have, I mean, we have administration, but they have input from the
Yeah.
various school districts themselves
Right.
in terms of an administrator.
So what
Need
the,
to be-
yeah, so what we do is we do it as part of our principal meetings now. And so, for example, when we have, because we have a large administrative team now, close, right around between around 25, and they all have expertise. So if we have a policy that's around behavior, we're gonna have people that are specific to that need come. For example, we have some policies coming around cell phones that we're gonna need to work on. And so there's principals that have volunteered to work on that, and then they'll be coming, the nurses. So we've been able to get more people involved in the process, which has been exciting.
So that's a change the way we wanted to, I mean, to do that is to have an administrator there and they manage making sure that someone from the various districts in terms of the principal, not just the one of student discipline, that's whatever at the school, be part of that.
So do you think that at some point, you think about is looking at how we do these committees and, because now we have Arlington in the mix too.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to revamp them for this new world we live in now of mergers in Arlington.
Well, in
they
this
are,
case, Arlington
they
has
are.
a representation.
Nicole is on the committee.
No, I'm not.
No, not Nicole's,
Not no more?
no.
I wonder if there needs to be something written, so we have, so in case expertise disappears, we're not, going
Well,
back.
and that's why I'm speaking up here because Dick left and I can't be here for that.
Well, and that was, I mean, it's in the policy for like the superintendent's evaluation that it is spelled out, one member from each board will be in there. So if we were to have it spelled, I guess it would be
And we
a
have a policy
policy.
about, we have a policy about having policies,
Yeah,
and it was
Yeah,
just
we
updated.
do. 1,000.
Yes, it was just updated. So that's always a good one to review.
Sorry.
So that concludes my
Voice spoke up
my
there.
chair's report.
Okay.
Scott, I would just say, next month, one thing that we'll have to bring is, the food service management contract renewal. We have to have in place prior to July 1. There was a food service advisory committee meeting warned for last week, which I don't think was well attended, if at all attended. I was away at a conference, so we will have to try to reschedule, so that committee can formulate a recommendation and bring that to the board, this board next month, for this board to take action, so we can continue, food service for our summer program.
I didn't see that agenda go out. I mean, that was actually planned.
The
Wendy,
advisory.
is she still on that?
Jess has her hand up.
Jessica has her hand up, Scott.
Go ahead, Jessica.
I just had a quick question about the Food Advisory Board Committee, because I had volunteered to participate in that. And I did not get to attend the meeting because it was at 3:30 and I'm still working. So my question is, and I guess I should have asked at the last Arlington board meeting when I volunteered, are those meetings typically at 3:30 in the afternoon?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
There is a remote option though, so if I don't know what you do for work, if you can jump on a cell phone for a
Okay.
little bit or, that's totally your call.
Thank you.
And then, so the next item on the agenda is any other business? And the last part is FYI. So in the packet, the SVU budget status report is there and student enrollment, which was referenced earlier this evening. With that,
Well, you didn't, you had an other, so.
Is there other on the table? Any others?
any other?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Just a question. Does anybody know what happened in the legislature around the lunch policy?
Thank you.
I believe it passed.
Thank you, that's fast.
Yeah, they're going to fully fund the,
And we don't know if the governor is going to veto it.
That's the crux.
That's where it is right now. Okay, thank you.
I think it would be helpful, maybe, I don't know if it's at the next meeting or if there's some resource to try to disseminate out to everybody, just a legislative update, all the things that are going to impact schools. Maybe the VSBA is our resource for that, but it'd be good to make sure everybody understands. There was a lot in the works.
I think what I've done at my board is I've requested that the attorney for the SVSU come and participate, and we did that last meeting. I think it would be useful to have Dina speak to some of those requirements to this board. That's my suggestion.
I like that.
She's very common sense and understandable, and she's a good person to refer to this because she keeps tabs on it. She has to. That's her job.
Any other business?
We adjourned.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion made by Leon, seconded by Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good night.